Good morning, everyone. Everybody will please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and the National Anthem. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare of bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
Well, it's great to have everybody back at EC Glass for the start of the school year and the convocation. There are some few folks that I need to recognize that are here in support of you today. First, I'd like to recognize Fred Glover. He's here somewhere. He's with UNISERV, and he's your VEA rep. Fred, if somebody can see you, if you'd wave. I don't see him. All right. I know he's here because I welcomed him this morning. We walked in the halls together. Next, I'd like to recognize current board members that are here. If you could please rise. Current school board members. Ms. Morrison, Ms. Carter, Dr. Brennan, Dr. Coleman, Ms. Snyder, and I've got Dr. Nillis up here on the stage with me. Welcome. And I think we might have a few previous board members. I saw Ms. Waller here. Hi, Ms. Waller. Any other previous school board members in the audience today? Next, it's important that we recognize our city council members that are here supporting us up on the stage, and speaking to you in a little bit is Ms. Joan Foster. If other city council members would please rise. Mr. Randy Nelson on my left, and Sterling Wilder on my right. And in addition to the city council, we have a few folks actually from the city staff here. I know I've seen Chief Raul Diaz. I see Bonnie Sverchek. Nora Dunn's here. If there's anybody else from the city staff here to support us today, I ask that you please rise or wave. Okay. It's great to have those folks out here to support us as we get ready to start off another great school year. As last week got going, new teachers showed up on Monday, and the buzz kind of built throughout the week. On Friday is when I started to see it throughout the buildings, because throughout the summer, you guys don't know it, but the buildings are very empty. It's a lot of work, there's a lot of repairs, there's a little bit of summer school going on, but without the teachers, the heart of the building isn't there. Friday, the teachers came back. The smiles, the laughter, the getting ready for the new school year could be heard throughout the buildings I was in. And throughout last week, football teams were doing two-a-days, cheerleaders were practicing, volleyball teams were practicing, and you could hear that ever-recurring bump, 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 bump in the background as the high school bands had the drummers beating out their cadence as they started to learn their new routines for the year. So Lynchburg City Schools has come alive to start a new school year. Friday was a good day for me because I got to see people that came back. It was a really good day at the end of the day for me because I went and visited with a neighbor. And she had some great things to say about what she thought of Lynchburg City Schools. Now, in my line of work, I rarely have people that want to give me things that they think are great about Lynchburg City Schools. The majority of the people that I deal with have a complaint or a need for help. So it was refreshing to meet with her and her son, who's going to be in the 6th grade at Dunbar, and hear the things that they like about Lynchburg City Schools. They've been here for a year and a half. And what's interesting about where they came from is they came from one of those places that had a charter school. They didn't like their charter school. The reasons they didn't like their charter school was you had to bring your lunch. They didn't have a cafeteria to serve their kids. Every parent had to take their kid to school every day. They had no bus service. Those things meant a lot to them. They didn't have what they said to me were teachers that care about my son first and foremost, that connected with my son as soon as he moved here. Now that young man was in the 4th grade and the 5th grade at Lincoln Elementary and will be starting at Dunbar. But to hear her and her son say, the food's great, I love this school, I'm looking forward to going to Dunbar. And she's looking forward to her younger children, 2 girls, starting kindergarten in a few years. To hear things like that makes me realize why I do the job I do on a daily basis, and I hope that you realize that's why you do your job, is to connect with kids and families and to make them successful in Lynchburg and in education. So thank you for all that you do. So to continue on with the program, it's my pleasure to introduce our current school board chair, Dr. Mike Nellis. He's going to come share a few words with you.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome. I guess this is the official start for the 2017-18 school year. My name's Michael Nellis. I am this year's school board chairman. We've already appreciate the support from fellow board members that are showing up tonight, as well as city council and staff. I think it shows that it really matters, public education in the city of Lynchburg. So from the board, greetings to all the staff, especially to the new staff. And I'm using staff in a general sense, just everybody here. Our new employees, you are joining a very dedicated group of educators and support professionals. So this is a hard speech for me to give. This is like I'm going to say something and the world will change and everything will be good. And I'm not, for the few of you that actually know me personally, a lot of you knew my family 20 years ago when we had 4 kids in the school system. They all graduated, went to college, and they are all on their own and self-supporting. So thank you for that. So I'm not much of a slogan, mission statement, motto kind of guy. But to me, the LCS mission statements always struck me as being right on target. It's where we need to be and maintain our focus. I know on the board, we do occasionally remind each other why we're here, and it's for the kids. That needs to be our main focus. The mission statement of every child by name and by need to graduation, I think if we all focus on that day to day, and that can be hard, we will get to where we need to be, and so will the kids. So, this is my 5th year on the board, and every year I am more and more impressed with the dedication and professionalism of our staff. I've seen staff going not just the extra mile, but extra miles to get students to graduation. So, from me personally, thank you, and on behalf of the board, thank you. So this year is one of change. We have a new he's sort of new, acting superintendent, and you will hear from him a little bit later this morning. And sometime later this year, we will have a new superintendent. And obviously, those are 2 big, significant changes. And we ask for your support during this time of transition. In particular, ask you to support Dr. Massey. He does have the support of the board. To help with hiring a new superintendent, we on the board do intend to engage a search firm. I'm optimistic that we will be in a position to make an announcement in the next week or 2. Keep your fingers crossed. But this will just be the first step, but it will be an important step and will officially kick off the search process. A major priority for the board is making sure that we get input from all stakeholders. And the stakeholders include city staff, city council, local business leaders, professionals, local clergy, and you. Because this is going to make a big impact on all of us, as well as the students and parents. So when the opportunity is available, I encourage everyone to participate and contribute. Be honest, be constructive too. That will be a little more helpful than making it a therapy moment. So constructive comments will be very helpful. And this is a decision we need to get right, we want to get right, and with your help, we will get it right. So from the board, let me offer you our thanks for your hard work and support this year, your support and efforts on behalf of our students and making a difference in the city of Lynchburg. Thank you.
Good morning. I have the privilege this morning of welcoming some members to new and recently appointed administrators to our LCS family. A week ago, we had the opportunity to welcome new teachers, and many of you are here. With our new administrators, I'm going to call each one by name and ask them to stand until we have named each of them. So, new principal of R.S. Payne, Kelly Baldwin. New principal of Linkhorn Middle School, Kieran Blay. New assistant principal of Heritage Elementary School, Danny Boyer. New principal of EC Glass, Jeffrey Garrett. New assistant principal of Perrymont Elementary, Jeff Guerin. New principal of Sandusky Middle School, Matthew Mason. New principal of Bedford Hills Elementary, Sherry Steele. And what a tough sort of initiation into the job getting many of you here this morning. Our new Director of Transportation, Russell Stone. So welcome to our new administrators and everybody who's new to our LCS family. We're fortunate this morning to have with us Mayor Joan Foster. Mayor Foster obviously serves as the current mayor, but also served as vice mayor and mayor during the period of 2004 to 2012, where she was the first female mayor of Lynchburg during that time. She has led and advocated for a variety of initiatives, including a dialogue on race and racism, preschool literacy programs, Live Healthy Lynchburg, where citizens of Lynchburg lost over 12 tons in 2012. She currently also serves as the Director of Development with the Beacon of Hope, helping provide promise and opportunities for a number of our students. She has received various degrees in education, including in elementary, early childhood, and special ed. Please join me in welcoming Mayor Foster.
It's so wonderful to be here. I want to kind of reintroduce my council members because I bring greetings from not only the city but from my council members. I think I did see Councilmember Randy Nelson on this side. Councilmember Sterling Wilder, I think, was on this side. Vice Mayor Trinae Tweedy, where are you? There you are. We did have some council members who were not able to attend, and they send their love, their spirit is here with you, but they, even at prior commitments or family obligations, and they're here in spirit though. Well, I'd like to welcome you to a new school year, and thank you for your commitment to Lynchburg's youth. As you can see, I'm a little hampered this morning. I had knee surgery a week ago today. And although my doctor has told me, and I'm doing well, to take it easy, he hasn't released me yet, I can't drive, it's driving me crazy. I wanted to be here this morning with you. I wanted you to know that what you do every day is keenly important to our community. And I'm going to speak from my heart and my soul and my head this morning because I really want you to understand what is at the forefront of this mayor's mind. I was a former teacher. I know and I can appreciate the fact that teaching is one of those rare professions where you get a clean slate every year. Do-over. It's great. A new year always brings with it a sense of hope and possibility. You all expect great things from your students when they walk across that threshold next Monday. And we, the community, expect great things from you. I don't need to remind you how important your job is, because you're intelligent, you're caring, you're capable individuals. And you know what? You deserve the respect for a difficult job that you do. Some of you know that the city has launched an initiative to address poverty in this community. It's called From Poverty to Progress. There is a shadow over our city today. It covers our schools, our neighborhoods, our public places, and even city government. And that shadow is income inequality. An overwhelming 18,000 citizens of Lynchburg are living in poverty. They're struggling to get by. And you know what? Many of their children are the faces that you will see in your classroom. In fact, this statistic, and I knew it was high, was even alarming to me. There are 6,025 students out of a total number of 8,506 Lynchburg City School students that qualify for free or reduced lunch.
That number represents 7 out of every 10 students in our public schools. You all, probably better than a lot of our citizens in this community, know the crippling effect that poverty can have on a children's ability to learn. Learning on an empty stomach is nearly impossible. Going home to an unstable and a stressful environment puts our children at a disadvantage. Living in neighborhoods with high crime and low expectations put our most vulnerable students at an unequal playing field, leaving them miles behind others who do not go home and do not experience that, who do not go home to that. The gap between those that achieve economic success and those who do not begins very early, and it begins in your classrooms, you know that. Rather than placing the burden of caring for Lynchburg's most vulnerable students solely on you, the teacher, City Council is working to create a system where we can work collectively on this issue together. I'm sharing this with you all today because educators and public policy makers, we have to be at the same table. When you succeed in your classroom, we succeed as a city. When you innovate in your schools, our systems become smarter. When you face challenges in your classroom, they shouldn't be only yours to carry. They belong to all of us. Our role as city leaders is to equip and empower you to be the best educators you can be, just as you equip and empower your students to be the best learners that they can be. Raising the bar in educational attainment for Lynchburg students is the centerpiece, I believe, of affecting poverty in our city. The future of Lynchburg doesn't belong to just 7 city council members. It belongs to all of you too, and the youth who are coming up through Lynchburg City Schools. Our success as a community is tied directly to the educational success of our students. You know what? Education is a universal currency. Every student, from the best and the brightest, and get this, every student, from the best and the brightest to the daydreamer to the student on free lunch, deserves an advocate in their corner who believes in their potential. Growing up poor in Virginia, which I did, without my parents, higher education was never part of my expectations. The expectations in my house were very low. My father was a blue-collar worker and expected me to finish high school and be the same. However, I had dreams of becoming a teacher. When my dreams faded away and my hope for something bigger left me, I had someone who felt differently. My 7th grade teacher, Mrs. Burnett. She believed in me more than I believed in myself. You know, but I called her, and now that I look back, Mrs. Burnett was my co-pilot. She advocated for me, and she never gave up on me. Well, 3 degrees later, I beat the odds. And I know many of you all sitting in here have beat the odds too. You are the best advocates our kids will ever have. From age 5 to their high school graduation day, you will become their co-pilots on their journey. With your guidance and your confidence in them, our children can achieve their highest goals and be just what they want to be. They've got you on their side. And here's my promise to you as your mayor today, and as I hope many of you all, your friend, and to education in Lynchburg. Every child and all of their teachers must believe that economic success is part of their future. This begins with us. It is our moral imperative as educators and as policymakers. Just as you are the co-pilots to each of your students, I will be your co-pilot this year. The way you shepherd your children in the classroom is the way your local leaders are called to shepherd you. You empower our children's young minds. You teach them to be curious and disruptive in all the right ways, and you inspire them to bravely put one foot in front of the other to get to that dream that they want. I'm committing to each of you today that I will do this for you. I will listen to your ideas. I will return the inspiration that you give me when I walk into your classroom and read to your children are just impressive. When you step in your classroom each and every day and you grow our children's young mind, I'll be there if you need me, to be there with you as much as I can. I do have a job. Thank you for your passion and for your unwavering belief in the potential of our children. And for the privilege of walking with you on this journey, I thank you. On behalf of my fellow council members, we wish you in your field with promise, inspiration, and with the passion to be a powerful co-pilot. And I'm going to close with this. Teachers are always given homework assignments. Well, here's my homework assignment to you. I'm inviting you to join me and council in what's already happening to affect poverty in Lynchburg. Please join us on September the 14th at 6:30 here at EC Glass for a community-wide meeting. That is September the 14th at 6:30. I'd like to personally ask each of you to bring your voice to the table as a forefront of public servant. Your knowledge and your experience is invaluable to us in this community-wide discussion and plan of action to reduce our poverty rates and move some people out of poverty. You are an important piece of that. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for everything you do for our children. And if I can do anything for you, just let me know. Call City Hall, Valerie. I'll be there if at all possible. Have the best year possible. Thank you.
The support and the partnership we have with the mayor, with the city council, with the leaders and staff of the city are so important for our combined success. Let's give our applause again so all that they did for us. There's a bumper sticker out there that I love which says, "I am a teacher. What is your superpower?" And it is one that reminds me that every day and every minute as a teacher, you have the power, the privilege of influencing students. And 1 week from today, we will see those students in front of you. Every year, one of your colleagues at each of your schools is lifted up as the teacher of the year. And while we are charged, a committee of us is charged with naming one for the whole division, it's a day of celebrating people at every school who are those superheroes, as there are many others within this room. Our teachers, being a teacher in title and in what you do is the most important thing for our students. So with our Teachers of the Year last year at each school, we have a video where we asked them, we didn't quite ask it, what do you do with your superpower? But basically that's the question. What do you do? What is most important for you to focus on for your students? Join me for a moment for us to watch.
I think that the biggest concern as far as getting that student to open up is to just show the genuineness in you as a person and let that student know that you care, you're for them. In our school, we have this plaque on the wall that says, "We care, we're glad that you're here, and we won't give up on you." that means a lot to them, because some of them they've been through so much change and there's no stability.
Our kids definitely have a ton of different backpacks, meaning they have their school backpack, they have a home life with, that could have multiple different backpacks in it, with maybe dad's in jail, or they haven't lived with mom in forever, or, they have older siblings, and so their backpacks get really heavy. And so they don't always come to school with school being like their number one priority. So I feel like a lot of times I gravitate towards those kids that are just like the tough kids, the ones that maybe have been written off, they aren't gonna do great, or, I've had the most trouble with this kid, he just doesn't wanna work. I feel like I tend to gravitate towards that kid and try to think of ways that I can get them to come out of their shell and to really start to love learning and to start to maybe see it in a different light.
I think one of the things that I have learned over my 20 years in education, and certainly through the organizations and projects that I've been a part of with Virginia Center for Inclusive Communities, I have learned that all of our students have stories to tell. And their individual stories may be very similar to my story growing up. As a student, their stories may be very, very different from my story growing up. So I think as teachers, it would help us help our students to get to know where they're coming from, to get to know exactly what issues or topics they're struggling with. If we know those things and we know the parts of their stories that maybe haven't made them so successful in school and in their academics, then those are the things that we can address so that they can be successful.
I think it's really, and as I said, just really big on relationships, because I think with students, once they know that you're invested and that you care about them, they're willing to work for you, open up, to you, to share with you. So I've always been just, you never know when a kid comes in what their day is like. So just really spending time, and that the student knows that you're there for them.
It's teaching is parenting, unfortunately or fortunately. It's part of that. We're part of the building and molding of a child, and we have to, take that into consideration. But I do what I call deposits into their life. I deposit good, deposit. So when I have to take a withdrawal from their life, it still has a deposit left. There's still stuff left in there, because if you don't deposit and you do a withdrawal because you have to correct them, then they get defensive. But if you have enough into them, they don't get defensive. Your reaction is a lot different than if you don't deposit into their lives.
I try to make it as relevant as possible with everyday life, because I want the songs to be something that they're just not going to remember that particular year. I want them to remember the songs, hopefully for the rest of their lives, that it will be of an encouragement to them, strength, support, inspiration, because that's what music does. That's what music should do for them. It's not just a bunch of words on a piece of paper that they just sing. It should be something that's going to be a part of them, hopefully stay a part of them for the rest of their lives.
Telling them that it's not always easy, and that's okay. I try to bring in little anecdotes, like, for example, one of the things we talked about was Formula 409, how it got its name. I said, do you know why it's called Formula 409? And they're like, no, because 408 attempts did not work. It was the 409th that worked. So you don't have to be good at something the first time, but it's the perseverance and keep going and keep trying. And also tell them can't never could. If you come in with a negative thought about it, you're not going to do it, because you're not going to put forth your best effort. So coming in with a more positive attitude and telling them, it's okay to make mistakes. I've sat down with more than one student throughout the year teaching math, because nobody's perfect at math, not even myself, where they've made a mistake and they get frustrated, and I'm like, I appreciate you trying. Let's take a break from that one. We'll come back to it. Let's do something else. And then we go back to it, and they're like, that's the mistake I was making. So having the perseverance and allowing them to make mistakes and not fussing, just being supportive.
Don't forget about our students. It really matters to them that they're not forgotten. It often happens when they get in an environment like this that they feel less than. That's automatic. But they are constantly talking about, making references to their former school, their former teachers, and they still want to maintain that connection, even though they can't. They need to be reaffirmed that people still care about them, even though they've made a mistake.
Let's give it up for our superheroes. All right, I have the privilege of welcoming up here our Vice Mayor, Trinae Tweedy. Ms. Tweedy is a native of Lynchburg, a graduate of EC Glass. Ms. Tweedy served in the U.S. Navy. She then returned to Lynchburg and currently, in addition to her role as Vice Mayor, is the Senior Director for Workforce Development and Community Engagement for Goodwill Industries of the Valley. She is a former member of the Lynchburg City School Board, where she also spent some of that time serving as Vice Chair. Please join me in welcoming Vice Mayor Tweedy.
Good morning, LCS. Okay, let me see. Am I the only one in here? Okay, good morning, teachers, administrators, custodians, bus drivers, nurses, guidance, grounds and maintenance, classroom aides, all the leaders throughout our schools who impact the lives of our children. Good morning, LCS. Good morning. All right. I have the awesome privilege to introduce to you today our new interim LCS superintendent, Dr. Larry A. Massey. I shared the same stage and had this opportunity 5 years ago to bring this tremendous educator before you. While I could read to you verbatim his vita and his complete resume in whole, share with you his accolades, I do have those, I decided to give you a glimpse of the types of questions Dr. Massey will face in his new role. And I know from me, and I'm sure from others, but I just want you to have that glimpse. Dr. Massey, what is the return on investment, ROI, of education dollars invested by our city compared to the economic outcomes and successful gains of our graduates? 2, Dr. Massey, is it rational to think about outsourcing through education partnerships certain areas or departments of our education system to gain greater results in areas where needed or achievements? Do we stick to traditional education or recreate our delivery of education in this city? Dr. Massey, how do we create an education ecosystem or culture that makes all students believe they can and will succeed and meet the highest education expectations placed on them? Are y'all on the edge of your seat yet? As a part of my introduction of Dr. Massey, I wanted to give you just a glimpse of the type of tough questions I'm asking of the person who will sit in the hot seat of superintendent leadership for our school division. Why do you think, or why can I ask these questions? Because I personally trust the answers he will give me. I personally believe his veteran educator wisdom and years of experience will be imparted to each of you, and through his decision-making skills, he will serve our school division and entire city well. The next several months will not be a cakewalk for this superintendent. As with any time of change, challenge, and increased expectations, the journey toward achieving greater success means we don't accept mediocrity for some or from some, but we expect 100% success for all. And Dr. Massey believes in 100% success for all. So, by way of Grayson County Public Schools, Orange County Public Schools, Russell County Public Schools, Buckingham County Public Schools, by way of Virginia Tech, East Tennessee State University, University of Tennessee, University of Virginia, Clinch Valley College of University of Virginia, and of course, Lebanon High School. By way of having served as Region 7 school superintendent's past chairman and past secretary, or the Mill Creek Baptist Church deacon, Sunday school superintendent and teacher, member of Buckingham County Chamber of Commerce, member of Russell County Chamber of Commerce. To some, I am introducing my friend, our friend, the interim superintendent of Lynchburg City Schools, Dr. Larry A. Massey. To others who know him like I do and remember him like I do, I say he's back. Join me in welcoming to the stage Dr. Larry A. Massey.
Well, good morning. I'm not sure I can live up to anything, much less that. Marie Waller was quite critical of our having a 15-minute break in the program this morning, and so was Michael Nillis. My response to that is, I put that 15-minute break in there. I'll own that because I had to go to the bathroom. And it took the whole 15 minutes. Ben Copeland said, "You'll lose the audience." I said, "I'll lose my grip." Rank has its privileges. I am glad to be here, honestly. I'm like the Godfather. Just when I think I'm out, they pull me back in. Do you remember Godfather 3? That was a great scene. I'm going to introduce the most important people here. The student representatives to the school board. I'm going to ask them to come up on stage. First, Manan Shah. Madison Foster. Right over there. Katikwa Burns. Those folks are from Heritage High School. From E.C. Glass High School, we have Kennedy Robertson. Ava Baruskas could not be here, but I want you to give her a round of applause. She was here earlier and had to leave at the break. I'm sorry I lost that bit of the audience. Is that the best you can do to encourage these children? I would like to see. I wanted those delightful children to begin their final year in high school with a standing ovation. And you gave it to them. God bless you and God bless them. I broke out the DVD of that speech I gave the last time. I sat down last night to watch it. I lasted about 2 minutes into that thing. I was bored to death. I'm going to try to do better this time. I can't believe I sound that way. And that accent. Can you understand what I'm saying? Great. I am from West Virginia, and I never got over it. Mountaineers are always free. Before I go any farther, I want to introduce the person that allowed me to come here. My lovely wife, Sandra Stutes Massey. Would you please stand? Well, I always refer to Convocation as Groundhog Day for the superintendent. That's the day the superintendent comes out to see if he can find his shadow and you never see him again the rest of the year. I'm going to try to beat that. I love getting into school, so you're going to be seeing me. I never think about Convocation that I don't think about something that happened once at Convocation. And you can imagine when you've been a school superintendent 25 years and been in education 43, what can happen. I don't know how many Convocations I've attended, but the first one was in 1967. That's 50 years ago. But when I was superintendent, I was preparing, I think it was about my second Convocation, way back there when the earth was cooling. And I had hair, believe it or not. Well, I got ready to walk up on the stage to give my speech, and I was absolutely scared to death. And someone said, "Dr. Massey, your pants are split." Sure enough, they were. And it was about 15 minutes, about the length of that break, before we were to start. And I got with my principal, Jeff Sword, and I said, "Jeff, I'm in trouble here. I've got to go. I've got to go home and change." He said, "You don't have time. Let me get the home ec teacher." to take care of this for you. I said, okay. So we go down to the home ec lab, a nice place, beautiful young lady who was teaching home economics. And I said, "Jeff, you'll stay with me, won't you?" He said, "Absolutely." So I went in and I said, "I'm quite embarrassed about this, ma'am." She said, "Don't be, we're adults. You go in my office." I said, "Well, if you don't mind, I'm gonna pull the shades and shut the door and hand me your pants through the door and I'll sew them up." Well, things were going really well. I could hear that sewing machine and I said, "Boy, she must be putting a patch in there." She said, she knocked on the door, she said, "Dr. Massey, I have your pants ready." I said, "Great." So I was standing there in my underwear, reached my arm through the door, and took my pants. About this time, her handsome young husband walked in. Mr. Sword had found it convenient to go to the restroom himself, and there I was with my hand out the door, this lovely young lady standing, handing my pants. I'm telling you, that young husband was about the most unreasonable man I've had to deal with in my career. Thank God my wife checked me out good before I left this morning. But I am so pleased to be back in Lynchburg. I had a great time when I was here the last time. With your help, we'll have a good time again. I came back because old friends said they needed me. Well, it made me feel good. And Gina Dolan Sewell and Nora Dunn, that's Nora Dunn, and Charlie White, they all called, and how could I turn those great people down? Well, my wife gave me several reasons why I could, but I came back for that reason, and I also came back for another reason. I love as I was saying, I love being a school superintendent. And I love the effort to try to make a positive difference in students' lives. I love coming to work every day. And as you can see, apparently there was another reason, according to this headline, that I came. If you'll notice, I got top billing under that Hummingbird and Michael Vick. Three different kinds of birds, really. But take a look at that and tell me, of the three, who's the happiest? You're right. I'm the happiest person on that page. And some of my friends were very upset over that headline, but I embrace it. And I'm here to admit that I'm the highest paid migrant worker in Virginia. And you get what you pay for. I've been reading a lot about you guys, and you know, I like to get with Mike Rudder and sing gospel music. And I suggested to him that we do that today, and he said, not on your life. But you know, I am who I am. I like you, and I hope you like me. I met with the Lynchburg City Schools School Board on June the 14th, and I was very positively impressed with their desire to foster improvement in the schools. the board and I agreed that for us to be successful, we needed to know our respective roles. That is, the school board would set policy, and I would carry out that policy and run the schools on an everyday basis. I'm a human being just like you, and I have sensitivities, and I make mistakes. And when I do, I hope that the board and you will pick me up. If you prick us, do we not bleed? If you tickle us, do we not laugh? If you poison us, will we not die? And if you wrong us, shall we not revenge? Where'd that come from? Where'd that come from? You all know that. That's Shakespeare, but what is it? It's our buddy Shylock in The Merchant of Venice. And to me, we're all in this life together. We're all more alike than we are different. We need to take care of one another. You know, the relationship of a superintendent to a school board is analogous to a marriage. It's important that we get off to a good start. So we had a prenuptial agreement. It's so much easier to get things straight at the beginning than try to go back and put Humpty Dumpty back together again. As a matter of fact, my wife, Sandra, told me that if she married me again, she would have a prenuptial agreement about the size of the Manhattan phone book. You know, when I started 50 years ago, I had a great principal. His name was A.P. Baldwin. He was a William and Mary graduate. He was 6'6" tall and a wonderful man. I had been teaching about 2 weeks, and he came and looked in my window. I was teaching chemistry and biology at Honaker High School in Honaker, Virginia. And he looked in my window just as the bell was ringing, and I thought, oh man, it was Monday morning, and we had to turn in our lesson plans on Friday for the next week. Now, I'd done my lesson plans, and I believe in lesson plans. I believe in knowing what we're going to teach so we can stay on track. So I was sure he was coming to check on my lesson plan. So I walked out, hey, Mr. Baldwin, how are you? He said, come here. So he walks with his arm around me, and I'm looking up at him. And I said, Mr. Baldwin, I have my lesson plans. They're in my desk. I'll bring them to you just right away. And he said, I don't want to talk about lesson plans. He said, you know, you've been here 2 weeks, and the children are responding quite well to you, and you're getting along well with everybody. He said, I just wondered about something. I said, what's that? He said, I was just wondering if you were happy. Now, how about that? At that very moment, I became an A.P. Baldwin man. You know what I'm saying? Of all the things that gentleman had on his plate, he was concerned about me as a single individual. And I feel the same way about you. I can't make you happy, but I can certainly facilitate it, and that's what I intend to do, because I believe if you are happy and as stress-free as you can be, that your students are going to enjoy being in the class, and they're going to relate to you better. Discipline is going to be better. Children should enjoy school. Don't take the joy away from a child when they come in your class. And don't allow anyone to stress you to the point that that happens. I want our students to love school. You know, I love school. I started school, believe it or not, in 1949. My grandmother marched me to Canova Graded School in Canova, West Virginia, which, by the way, was an outstanding school. It was in the shadows of Marshall University, and it was all about the herd. And you talk about a great school. It was absolutely, I don't know that I've seen any better. I've seen it probably equal, but none any better. But my granny took me to school. She took me the first day. We didn't have kindergarten, so I was in the first grade. She took me one day. Then she said, you know, you can go the next day by yourself. And I noticed a lot of parents were there the next day with their children. As a matter of fact, they were there 2 or 3 days. But I felt like my grandmother had given me leave to be mature about it, and I felt proud of that. She taught me that even a child, and we need to do this, we need to teach our children this, even a child needs to take some responsibility for their own existence. Now, my grandmother obviously was a great influence on me, along with my parents, and we've all read the book, Everything I Need to Know I Learned in Kindergarten. Well, since I didn't go, I had to compensate, and Granny compensated for me. Of course, my parents were great influences as well, but my granny was the real deal, you know. And she taught me, I'm having a Marco moment here. Marco Rubio is not the only dude who can take a drink of water on TV. I am parched. My grandmother taught me something that we need to instill in our children also. She taught me, don't quit. You can't quit. You know, we've got some real challenges ahead of us here in Lynchburg City Schools, but we're not going to quit, are we? We're going to keep on keeping on. I went out for football. I knew I wanted to quit as soon as I got out there. That helmet gave me a headache. And these coaches, they weren't lenient or sensible like Coach Bradley. There may be some controversy about that, I don't know, but and Coach Woody. That is, we walked out for football practice, they put full pads on us and ran us a mile after we'd been laying around the swimming pool all summer. And I knew that was bad news, and they wouldn't let you have a drink of water. You know, that was back in the day they gave you salt pills, you believe that? Salt pill. Made it worse. You know, so I hid lemons and stuff in my helmet. But after about to suck on a lemon, you know, you'd be surprised when you're dying of thirst what that'll do for you. But anyhow, those 2-a-days in the Ohio Valley, well, they were quite taxing. So I talked my friend into quitting with me, just skipping afternoon practice, and we would go to Huntington and go to movies. Well, we went up there, and there were, at the Paramount was Bridget Bardot. And God Created Woman. I learned a lot that day. And down the street was Andy Griffith in No Time for Sergeants. I told my buddy, we'll see Andy Griffith later. so we went, I rode the bus home, the Ohio Valley bus line, rode it home that evening. Came in and Granny was standing at her stove cooking. How was football practice? I said, it was all right. She said, how do you know? You were seen getting on a bus going to Huntington. Granny's like Sandra, she has spies everywhere. I said, well, I quit. She said, no, you didn't quit. I knew what she was going to tell me. I remember this moment. I knew what she was going to tell me. She was 5'1", weighed about 120 pounds, the strongest person in character I've ever known. She said, you're going back tomorrow. I said, Granny, you don't realize how those coaches are. They will run me to death for missing practice. She said, you should have thought of that before you committed to the coaches, to the school, and to your teammates that you were going to be a football player this year. You are going back and finish the deal. If you don't want to play next year, don't start it. Well, I went back, and those coaches ran me to death. But you know, I never forgot that. And to this day, it's hard for me to know when to quit. Sandra's pretty good about telling me, but it's really tough for me to give it up. And you know, I started to tell you about that first day of school. The second day of school, Granny not with me, I walked through the viaduct under the Chesapeake and Ohio Railroad to go to my elementary school. Well, there were some fifth graders down there that said, give us your lunch money or we're going to take your pants off. So I've had trouble keeping my pants on the whole my whole career. But I need another drink on that. So I ran to school and I went home that afternoon and I said, Granny, there were some boys in the fifth grade, I know who they are, that said they were going to take my lunch money. Well, lunch money was $1 a week, and Granny gave me $1 the first day for 5 days, 20 cents a day. She said, well, I can't afford to feed all those boys, and I didn't raise my boys to run from a fight. And I remember the terror that gripped my heart when she said that. But it was another life lesson about taking your part. Bullying is bullying and it's bad, but we need to teach our children to take their parts. So I walked in there through the viaduct, there they were, and they reached to grab me, and I just turned and backhanded one of the boys. I didn't run, and it just kept right on walking. Now, I don't know why this story ended well, but it did. They did not bother me. What they did was pick on another child who was willing to give it up. So I just walked right on. And then one day, my neighborhood Eddie Haskell, you know Eddie Haskell, don't you? His name was Frankie Allen. He was the same guy, just a different name. And I loved Frankie, and he was older than me, but he liked to whip me occasionally. So one day he chased me home, and Granny met me at the back porch. I remember her right now looking through that screen door, and she said, you need to take your part, son. Don't come running to the house. So I went back down there and lit in to Frankie Allen. I knocked him down. And he got up and gave me the thrashing of my life. But you know, that was our last fight, because it just became too inconvenient for Frankie to whip me. If I was going to stand up to him, it just became too inconvenient. I also learned something about children from my granny, about what motivates a child. she paid me a small stipend weekly if I would quit cussing. So sometimes you can motivate children with in different ways. My father came home from World War II, a Navy man. This was long before he answered the call to the ministry, and he was a pretty prolific cursor. And I picked up on a lot of those words, and when I called my aunt one of those words that I really didn't know what meant, that's when it precipitated. I was making even more money by accepting her change to straighten up my language. You know, I've ascertained that there's two main opportunities for improvement in the Lynchburg City Schools, and they're related to one another, and you know them as well as I do. Number one is the academic performance of our minority and socioeconomically disadvantaged students. Number two is the fact that apparently many of our schools will be denied accreditation by the Commonwealth of Virginia. But you know, I don't want to focus on the schools that are denied. We'll do that later. Today, it is so important for us to celebrate the schools that are accredited. And we're going to talk about that, and then we're going to give encouragement to our brothers and sisters until we're all accredited. We're all in this together. We should celebrate success, and we should help our brothers and sisters. It appears, it's not official yet, that the following schools are accredited. E.C. Glass High School. That's great, but there's something I want everyone to do in here. Are we not all proud of E.C. Glass High School? Can we not all share in this, please? Yes. Now, Dr. Garrett, if there was a way that you and I could take credit for that, we would, but you know that. So next year, you need to have some credit too, buddy. Paul Monroe Elementary School. Thank you. Bedford Hills. R.S. Payne. Sandusky Elementary School. Sheffield Elementary School. T.C. Miller Elementary School. And you know, I have to make a special mention of one elementary school that has made remarkable improvement and missed full accreditation by 1 point. Perrymont Elementary School. All right. Some of you are sitting there, we're not accredited. I I'm going to tell you what, I need to ask you to do this. Show our brothers how much help and support we're going to give this year so that everyone can be fully accredited. Let's encourage them. Thank you so much. You know, it's been said that success has many fathers, but failure is an orphan child. Everyone wants to own one side, but not the other. So thank you for that. How are we going to address these issues? Well, I'm going to make a comment that may surprise you. I'm not going to talk about some program that we purchase or engage in or whatever. The first and most important thing, and the answer to many of my friend Trene's poignant, important questions. First, the first thing we need to do is love the children. We need to love them. We need to love them all. We need to love the ones that make it difficult to love them sometimes. Let's face it, all children make it difficult sometimes. You know, when my son, TJ, started school, I remember what I wanted for him the very first day. And think about that. Your children, when you put them on that bus or you took them the first day, what did you want the school to do for them? Well, I thought my son was special. You know, he's frankly more special than any other child in the world. Do you feel that way? I mean, that's understandable, isn't it? Don't feel harsh toward me. I do love your children, but I don't love them like I do TJ. You know, I can't, I'm sorry. But we need to strive to love all the children. You know, as many of you know, my wife and I adopted our son when he was 4.5 months old. He changed our lives literally overnight, and we helped change his. My first thought when he started the school was for his teacher to love him as Sandra and I did. He had endured enough trials in his early life that I wanted things to go well for him at school. I also wanted the school to ensure his safety. He was so precious that I wanted him to be protected. And then I wanted the school to teach him well and to give him an opportunity to express himself in the arts and in career and technical education and in athletics. If we want this for our own children, why would we not want it for all children who attend our schools? After all, we are supposed to be in loco parentis, are we not? And you know, when I think about discipline, I believe in discipline. I believe in law and order. I believe you can't have instruction if you don't have discipline. I believe that. But I also know that children many times are acting out in school because of situations that they have no control over. They're frustrated. They don't know where to turn. What if hunger is responsible for making a child misbehave? The more we learn and know about our children, the more we can identify these things and help us understand why they are misbehaving. What if domestic violence is the cause? What if homelessness is the cause? If we are so far removed from our children that we don't know what their circumstances are, we're not going to be able to deal with them adequately when it comes to discipline or instruction, either one. Every child deserves to be loved. And we know that some children have more love than others from home. I'm convinced that the achievement gap could be lessened if we could identify a significant other for every child. Someone who would love that child and express it by seeing to it that child was well clothed, well fed, and had a clean bed in the same house every night. Someone who would see that the child was in school every day and making progress. Someone who would love the child enough to teach him or her the difference between right and wrong. Someone who would discipline the child with great compassion and love. And someone who would see that the child received the proper medical and dental care. In order to accomplish this, every school would need to identify the children who are standing in need. This is a difficult charge to put on you. I know it's difficult. I'm not a Pollyanna. We had a home where we provided these things. It's still hard to raise that child. I know that. I'm not blind to that. But I think this is the place to start. We need to know their names. And I'm going to work with every principal, and I want a list by name of the students who are standing in need. And we need to act upon those needs. And if we can't readily identify a significant other for each child, we need to recruit someone for the task, and maybe some of us need to stand up and volunteer our services. Now, please don't think that I'm going to put all our emphasis on just that group of students. We need to challenge every student. We need to provide every student, the gifted, the talented, the average student. We need to meet all their needs and put great effort on every child. Every child, in my opinion, should have an IEP. We should know enough about them that we provide for the child individually. The second thing we need to do is we need to respect each other. Respect the child, respect each other. I promise to respect you. And tell the truth. Just tell the truth. I was reared by a mother who was very intellectual, the most brilliant person I've ever been around. And she believed in telling the truth. Now, I think being raised by Mama helped me to deal with school boards. Because she didn't mince many words about it. I loved to play baseball when I was a child. And I played Little League. And I learned a whole lot in Little League, almost as much as if I hadn't played. Because I learned most of my baseball on the sand lot, something the kids don't do these days. But anyhow, I loved it. In the summertime, I got up in the morning, grabbed my gear, and we went to the ball field, and we played till lunch, and then we went back in the afternoon and played till dark. And we threw 1,000 times, batted 100 times, and we really learned the game. But Mama went to the Little League games. I wasn't very good, and I think she just didn't want to go to the games. So when I got my gear out, the year I was 13, getting ready to start the Babe Ruth, I knew what she was going to say. Don't get me wrong now, Mama really loved me, and she was a wonderful, wonderful person. But she would tell you the truth about things. I got that ball glove out. She said, "What are you doing?" I could tell she was dreading the games. And I said, "I'm going to play Babe Ruth League this year. Why do you ask?" She said, "I was just wondering, you know you're not very good." So when Marie Walder criticizes me, I remember that. Come on, Marie, I'm just kidding. What am I getting so far? A B? Yes, sir. A B. But you know, I went ahead and did it anyhow. And I started 3 years in high school. And I remember one time I hit a game-winning home run, and Mother wasn't at the game, of course. And the phone was ringing off, and she said, "What's this all about?" I said, "That's about the ball game, Mama. You know I'm pretty good." I really enjoyed that moment. When I told her I was getting my doctorate, she said, "That's good, but you're not going to be a real doctor." I said, "No, ma'am, but it's the best I can do." And she said one time, "You know, you used to be cute. I don't know what happened." But you know, she provided other things, and the earliest remembrance I have of being on earth is remembering my mother reading to me. That's the first memory I have, is that, and that's notable, I think. But anyhow, telling the truth, sometimes we need to couch it a little bit. I understand that. I've heard it said that being honest is like being pregnant. You either are or you're not. I don't know about you, I don't know about that, but when Sandra says, "Honey, does this dress make me look fat?" Honey, the answer is always no, regardless of what the truth is. But let's just tell one another the truth. When we have open house and the parent comes and Johnny's about to get an F, and the parent comes in and says, "How's Johnny doing?" And then I've heard this, "Oh, he's the sweetest thing. I just love having Johnny in class." And the parent leaves thinking he's a Rhodes Scholar, and she gets a report card, she thinks he should be on the road somewhere. So just tell the truth. It'll confuse your enemies and confound your friends. But while we're respecting each other, I've learned to not try to be so cute sometimes. I still stray and say things I shouldn't, but we should be mindful about what we say, especially to children. I remember missing a layup one time in a tournament, and the coach called me a rat. Bless his heart, he's a good man. I wish I hadn't missed a layup to this day. It cost us the ball game, but I didn't sleep that night, and I thought, we need to be, coaches particularly, I love you. Boy, you don't realize what an influence you have on children, just things you say. I remember making a couple of errors in the game once. I made an error at first base, so they stuck me in the outfield, and I let one get between my legs. And I came back to the bench. Remember the coach's name, his name was Don Money, a fine man. But he said, Massey, wherever I put you, that ball will find you every time. But I've tried to tame the way I talk to folks. I remember once in a very tenacious and stressful budget hearing, a certain member of the governing body years ago said to me, Dr. Massey, I may be crazy, but you're all wrong on this budget. And I said, well, I accept your premise, but not your conclusion. Well, that got a big laugh, but boy, I'm telling you, the budget was tough that year. So we need to respect one another. Third, I think, I'm speaking to teachers here and principals, we need to empower you guys to do your jobs. And then we don't need to micromanage you. You're professional people. The fourth thing we need to do after we empower you is to trust you to do your jobs. Respect you, empower you, and trust you. You're professional people. By the way, most of you are doing jobs that I can't do. So it makes a lot of sense for me to micromanage your classroom. That is ridiculous. May I say to you that I consider myself as your servant, not your master. I believe my work must be to help you do your work. The central office must work for the schools and not the other way around. Principals must be responsible for their schools, period. They must own them. They must be the captains of their ships. You go ahead. I will not run an individual school, and neither will any member of my staff. Principals, I will respect you, empower you, and trust you. Now, principals, you've got to be up to this. You've got to be up to this. You've got to use good judgment. You got to run your place, and you got to know when to call me and when to just go ahead and do whatever it is you're doing or going to do. And it takes some judgment. I will be patient. I don't have much, but I promise I'll be patient. We were talking about the eclipse the other day and what we were going to do. What a great opportunity for learning. And I'll admit, the old grumpy principal part of me that I never got over was, why couldn't that be on Saturday? But it is a wonderful opportunity. Someone asked me when we were talking about this, well, now, what would we do if a parent comes and wants to take their child home and opt out of that exercise we're having to do? You know what I say to that? Do whatever you want to about that. I'd let them go home if it's me. Don't ask me that stuff. Just, you know, it's easier to get forgiveness sometimes than it is permission. Hey, bless your heart. What's your name? I'll tell you what, Tammy just brought Marco another drink here. And that Tammy needs to work in the central office while I'm here because she is amazing. But the principal has to be up to it. That is, you've got to be willing to be the captain and not depend on somebody to tell you your every move. Now, the reason I mentioned that, I just left the county where I had an emancipation day for the principals down there too. And a couple of those ladies and gentlemen were not real comfortable with that. And I coached and finally had to suggest that perhaps they needed to seek employment elsewhere because we've got to have somebody who's willing to be captain if they're going to be captain. You agree with that? Well, I'm asking the principals to respect, empower, and trust their teachers. And I'm asking the principals to please ask for central office help whenever and wherever it is needed. If you do that, the central office will have plenty to do. New teachers and teachers who are struggling need our help. You agree with that? But it needs to be up to the principal to call upon us that so-and-so needs help. Now, may I use one of my baseball analogies here? By the way, as Michael left, Michael Nillis, bless his heart, I love that fellow. I've only known him a couple of weeks, but he's an engineer. And he doesn't like all my stories. I can tell he doesn't. He is so anxious to get to bottom line, you know. And sometimes it takes me a little while to meander around and get there. So Michael's adjusting to me and I'm adjusting to him. I'm trying to cut it short to please everyone. So if you need help from the central office, ask for it. But if I can use a baseball analogy, we have baseball coaches in here. Well, see that they get docked, will you? Where are you? I know you're in here. I think I saw you. But anyhow, I'm a Cincinnati Reds fan. You should have pity on me. They're in the cellar. But I'm still a Reds fan. They have a great hitter by the name of Joey Votto. And he leads the National League nearly every year in on-base percentage. He hits about 30 home runs, knocks in 100 runs, hits 300, walks 100 times. He does everything well with the bat. And the Reds have a good hitting coach by the name of Don Long. And he helps the struggling hitters and the guys they've just called up from the minor leagues, from Louisville. Well, he has to work quite hard because the Reds are always trying to find somebody that can play. They haven't so far. But Don really works hard with those guys. But he speaks to Joey Votto every day. And do you know what he says to Joey Votto every day? Joey, have a nice day. He doesn't mess with the guy. Why would you? The man's a better hitter than Don Long could ever dream of being. That's what I say about great teachers. I have an admonition for principals and for central office people and for all of us in dealing with a great teacher who's doing a wonderful job, knocking it out of the park, has 99 or 100% or whatever success rate on the SOLs. And that admonition is leave them alone. Now, as I said, the central office will work closely with principals. That means I will work closely with the principal. And here's another thing. I want every principal to know for whom you work. I work for that school board. I work for them. The principals work for me. That's the only way it'll work. I'm not that egotistical. But that's the only way it'll work. I don't want you working for anybody else. You know my phone number. You know where I am. And if you need me, you call me. And unless Susan and the board has me in a board meeting, I'll come right then to your school. You work for only one person. And don't forget that. And don't get confused about that chain of command. Can you handle that? Now, we have an excellent central office staff that I respect, empower, and trust. I just believe that a new direction is needed in philosophy regarding the relationship of the central office and the school staffs. I and the central office simply need to be a service organization for the schools, period. That's the only reason we exist. Now, you get an order, principals. And I'm talking to my central office. That's not the first time they've heard this. But I know how things are hard to initiate sometimes, particularly certain kinds of change. And I'm telling you, if you take principles, if you take an order from anybody else but me in the operation of your schools, it's your own fault. Don't do it, okay? And here's how I feel about it. If you're the captain of the ship, I and everybody that comes to your school needs to come to the central office and ask Mr. Mason or Dr. Garrett or whomever for permission to come aboard. I will do that, so I expect all of my staff to do that. You run that ship. Run it well. Please understand that directives have come from the Virginia Department of Education, and they will be followed to the letter regarding schools that are denied accreditation. But we're going to work with principals. I'm going to work with every single principal, and our staff and I are going to sit down with you, and we're going to decide how you're going to handle these matters. You're just going to play a much stronger role. Your role is going to be the deciding factor on what we do. My experience has taught me that the best teaching programs are created by teachers. Those best teaching programs need to come from the classroom up and not from my office down. there is no panacea to solve all our problems. Our problems are difficult, but they're not impossible. They're multifaceted, but there are solutions. We're not going to solve them in the 6 months that I'm here. But I want to get this train going down the track so well that when the next superintendent comes, he's either going to have to get out front and lead it or get run over. It requires hard work and dedication. How did these folks get accredited? Hard work and dedication. But you know, the folks that didn't get accredited, many of them just missed by a student or two. And that hard work and dedication is going to carry them through too. And we're going to provide every single thing you do that you need, and everything that's an irritant to you. If I got breath in my body, I'm going to try to take it away. I'll tell you something else that I don't like seeing. Latching onto every trial balloon that comes over as if it's the answer is foolishness. And grab one program and you wear it out or it wears you out, and then we grab another one. That's not going to get it done. We need to understand that SOLs are not the enemy. It's the least required. It's not the enemy, and we get a great program going. SOLs are not going to be a problem. I've seen it in other divisions. It can happen right here. We get this thing honed down. It's not that big of a problem. We can handle it. Basically, we need to know what concepts are on the test, don't we? Do we know that? If I were still teaching chemistry, I'd know what concepts. I'd find out if Boyle's Law was on that SOL test or not. And then if I found out it was, I would make sure we taught all those concepts. And not only make sure that I taught them, but give those kids tests, your own little tests, to see that they're getting it. Sometimes you feel good that you've delivered a lesson, and maybe several of the students didn't really get it. So that's part of the process. Find out what's on the test. I don't mean cheat now. But it's no secret what concepts are on these SOL tests. Then teach those concepts, and then drill some, take the test, and see where they are. You give practice tests. And if children can't pass your practice test, they're not going to do well on the SOL, right? So you need to go back and remediate. And I've heard people say you hate the SOLs. I hate taxes. So we need to embrace it. And we need to get so good at it that it's not a problem. And I'm telling you, it can be that way. I don't know about you, but I do think some things have happened that we ought to take time out to do. We need to teach children to learn the days of the week as soon as they can. We need to teach children to learn the months of the year. I don't know when my son learned that, but he was way up in school and didn't know that November was before December. And he was a bright guy, And he had to learn those multiplication tables, and that's rote memory. I've seen people that were brilliant kids couldn't get it in Algebra 1 because they didn't know the multiplication tables. Something's lost somewhere. And they need to be able to tell time on a watch like this that old people have. All right, when somebody asks you what Dr. Massey said today, I want you to tell them, well, he drank a lot of water. And he showed us a slideshow of his grandchildren. Well, that's obviously not my grandson. That's brother. Wait a minute, go back to that one right there. and hold that just for a moment. That's my son, Thurman James Massey. By the way, he's a handsome dude. I forget that he's adopted. I remember when he was in the 9th grade, we had to take him to the orthodontist. His teeth were a mess. And the guy's name was Dr. Chris. And he said, now let's talk about you, Larry, and Sandra's genes, and let me examine y'all. And so we can tell what's going to happen with TJ's teeth. I'm telling you, the guy was in my mouth before I realized, wait a minute. This is not, it doesn't matter about my teeth, Doc. You see, this guy's came from a gene pool not like mine. I'm from West Virginia. I came from a gene puddle. But this guy obviously has better genes than me. And what I can tell you is, this fella is an honest, hardworking man. He is not wired to tell you anything but the truth. He is a remarkable son. He is an outstanding husband. And he's one of the best fathers I've ever seen. He works for the Indiana Department of Transportation. He took a job plowing snow. And he's moved up now to he's manager of their construction. As you might guess, I'm very proud of him. He's a graduate of Appalachian State University. And he had some struggles in life. But his mother raised him in the manner that all children should know. And from that day, on July 18th, 1978, when his birth mother handed him to my wife, he has been nothing but a joy. I remember that ride home. I thought that was the ugliest child I'd ever seen. All his clothes were filthy. His diaper was dirty. And he was nursing a bottle of Pepsi Cola. but you should have seen the difference when Sandra Massey got a hold of this boy. It passes all understanding. We went to get the baby, we stopped at Kmart on the way home. Sandra threw all that stuff away, and we replaced that Pepsi with some nutrients. The child was malnourished, and I bought him a ball glove. I thought that was just as important. I tell you this, and I want to show you some other slides now of my grandchildren. That's my 15-year-old grandson. He just turned 15. That's Dylan. That kid is a stand-up guy, too. He's a musician like his dad. They're both great guitarists. Dylan goes to school at Millwood School in Chesterfield County. And I told him, son, you ought to try to play some sports. And he went out for basketball this year, was struggling. By the end of the season, he received the trophy on his 8th grade team as the most improved kid on the team. Okay, Cindy, if you'll show the next one. This guy is Brother Fenton Massey. He likes ice cream. He turned 8 yesterday. I met TJ and his family up in Charleston, West Virginia, a couple of weekends ago. I was walking down the street with Fenton, and he's got an acerbic tongue just like his daddy. And he said, I'm hungry, and it was lunchtime, and we were on Capitol Street in Charleston, those of you that know Charleston, West Virginia. And, of course, being from West Virginia, I like hot dogs and all that kind of stuff, so I said, look here, there's a deli that says the best hot dogs in Charleston, Fenton. He said, well, that's a dream come true for you, Poppy. He said, I want a steak. I said, all right. He said, well, you can have a hot dog, and then I'll go get a steak. And I said, no, I'll have a steak too. You're a good influence. He said, my dad says you don't eat well anyhow, Poppy. All right, the next, please. All right, I had to have a picture of Sandra in here because she is the matriarch. And that's Dylan and Sandra at Grand Central Terminal in New York City. Okay. And that's us up in the Kanawha State Forest with TJ and his wife and Sandra, Dylan, Fenton, and also little Declan. I've got another there he is. There's that guy. I showed you this slideshow because I want to tell you, I know firsthand what can happen when someone makes it their business to love a child. I thank you for your attention. God bless you. Have a great school year. Thank you.